response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought?
And of course, we have rational thoughts today, not necessarily from me, but from our guests. They've got great things to talk about. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. This is Doug Crowe with the Author Your Brand Show. You're going to want to take notes. I've got a very special guest on today. Man, it's very rare to have somebody who's in the business world who has such a wide variety of businesses he's developed, purchased, sold. His story is amazing. He's like a better looking version of Richard Branson, I think. He's laughing in the green. We'll bring him out right now. Welcome to the show, today, my good friend, Mr. Pat McLaughlin. Pat, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Hey, Doug. That's a very ambitious comparison, Richard Branson. This is
well, I mean, maybe not 700 companies, but I want to start off the show by giving people reason to stick around. You've got such a wide background. I mean, why should we listen to a person who sold, hair salons, chiropractor, and now is doing a self-development product and service? I mean, that's a wide range. What is it that you have that we should pay attention to here?
That's a great question. I just think every one of us is got a very unique, background, right? And I think in my blender of life, if I so to speak, the ingredients have been very wild and varied. And, even having the ability to raise 4 children who are now, 20 to 26, having this kind of all this mixed up together. Plus, as you can see behind me, I like to read a little bit. Yeah. I think you throw all that out in a blender and it's kind of my margarita of life, so to speak. And so it's just kind of a unique way to look at some things. I'm kind of an analytical type person. And I think I got a unique way to see if we can help some young adults out.
You certainly do. And I want to hear about how you go from chiropractor to hair salons to this is a big, it's not a straight line, basically. So let's look at your background. Well, how'd you get started? What was your first thing you started doing as an entrepreneur?
Sure. So I'll just start from the scratch here. So it has been circuitous. That's a good word to use. I started in chiropractic at age 24. I'm 55 right now. So I graduated chiropractic school in 1991. So I've been doing this almost 32 years. Mm-hmm. I got involved in chiropractic because I got migraine headaches as a high schooler and missed a lot of life, so to speak. I was on drugs for 4 or 5 years in a row. And found chiropractic, and chiropractic made a difference in my life. So practiced a few years in Chicago and right outside Charlotte, moved to Morehead City, North Carolina in 1996 and been here ever since. So got involved in multiple practices at one time. I had as many as 5 practices at one point and found out, Doug, and this is interesting, I found out I was enjoying maybe some of the business tentacles of chiropractic more than being a chiropractor. And I've read that before. So I enjoyed the accounting department. I enjoyed managing people. I enjoyed the advertising piece. So I had a good buddy of mine here locally in town, and we decided to kind of partner up a little bit. And we looked at things like Moe's Southwest Grill. We looked at Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah. I landed the plane on Great Clips, which is a long story. Yeah. And we got in the hair business in 2009. We opened up 3 salons here in Carteret County outside of Eastern North Carolina. And we're terrible at it. And we were a couple of years in. So I had the chiropractic practice in these couple Great Clip salons. And the next thing you know, what do you do when you're really bad at something? You buy 12 more. So we bought 12 more in Wilmington. And kind of the rest is history. We ended up buying more in Nashville, Tennessee, and Bowling Green, Kentucky. Had 50 at one point for a few brief months. We mainly about 48, 49. And then worked at 14 years. I sold out in January of this year, January 2023, and now I bought another chiropractic practice. So I've got 2 chiropractic practices at this point. Also involved in a company called Stage Ride Med Centers, which is basically a urinary incontinence business of all things. And I got 2 centers in Raleigh with some other partners. Right. In between all that stuff, got involved in the food, went into the Duck Donuts business. Had that for 2 years in, of all places, Knoxville, Tennessee. And so it's just been kind of a really wild ride to really kind of examine business and also people along the way.
The people thing is what I want to focus on, because I can see, okay, be a chiropractor, okay, having a second one, okay, I'm good at business, cracking backs is okay, but business is more fun. But managing 50 hair salons plus your chiropractic business plus the other interests, I mean, that makes most entrepreneurs' heads spin. How do you manage all that?
Good point. It was, I think I had too much weight on the bar. I mean, it was at one point, good point. I had 48 chiropractic or great clips,
Yeah.
2 chiropractic centers, a duck donuts, and a partridge in a pear tree. Basically, it was very difficult, but
Yeah.
great systems and great people
Hmm.
and great partners. I think were made it all feasible.
Right.
And so, yeah, were we perfect in all areas? We weren't, but we certainly did a good enough job to keep everything
Hmm.
I'm going in the right direction. So learned a
That's
lot about myself, learned a lot about others,
uh-huh.
and it was great.
It's just incredible amount of bandwidth that everybody says that, 24 hours a day, but some people have multiple businesses. Some people can barely manage one. So there's a bunch of lessons there. I hope you put that in your book coming out called Alignment. Is that right? Or Life Alignment?
Life alignment, yeah. So
Mhm.
really, that came from this, Doug. The genesis of it is really a couple things. One is, I've been blessed to have close to 300,000 patient visits in my career as a chiropractor. Now, that's not 300,000 different individuals, but
Yeah.
that's
Right.
individual office visits. And
Hmm.
then we've had several thousand employees at Great Clips. I mean, through the years,
Yeah.
and there's unfortunately some attrition with that business,
Yeah.
but as far as turnover goes, and having raised 4 kids and knowing their friends,
Yeah.
I felt this common theme that was coming over, and that's the young adult. I'm going to say the 15 to 30-year-old, but really it can be 40, 50, 60-year-olds as well, that just are what I call lost, that just don't have a good focus on what they want to do.
Hmm.
We used a business operating system called Entrepreneur Operating System. It's called EOS. It's
Right.
traction, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of companies are using that right now. Well, we chose to use that in our Great Clips world. And went to the EOS conference in Georgia, in Atlanta, with my business partner. And as I sat there, and it was kind of dawned on me, it kind of hit me with a frying pan in the forehead. It was like businesses have operating systems,
Hmm.
but individuals don't, or not clear ones that I haven't necessarily seen. And it kind
Sure.
of dawned on me. I literally started doodling right there, and came up this what I call this platform, or hopefully comes a movement someday of
Yeah.
kind of a self-examination, self-awareness of how people can actually kind of put some time into their own life and really designates it's really 6 steps, so to speak, of how to get some focus in their life to get the life that they really deserve, and really become the best version of themselves.
Well, I gotta tell you, someone who can manage, 48 salons and a bunch of other businesses at the same time must know something about. I guess I use the word balance, but balance is obviously a myth. You can't have balanced life with all this stuff. Things are imbalanced. But you talk about alignment, not balance. So tell me the distinction between that.
Yeah, good point. I read a book called The One Thing by, I think it's Keller Williams, right? And so he talks balance is just not even possible. They use a word called counterbalance, right? So
Mm,
there's times, and I've certainly lived this, where there's periods of time my health is not in good shape, right?
mm,
And then or maybe there's too much business, or maybe I'm too much with this thing or that thing.
uh,
So things kind of sway a little bit, and it's very difficult to keep things totally in balance. As
mhm,
far as being in alignment and using the chiropractic model of a spine alignment,
yeah,
I think if you could keep your life kind of in a couple of these steps, which we'll talk a little bit later, is in keeping things kind of in direction, in alignment with energy. I think people can really get the life that they desire. I really believe that.
mhm,
You and I have talked before about this, but so many people spend hours and weeks, preparing and trying to plan, say, a vacation,
yeah,
but nobody's really spending any time talking about how to plan their own life. And
right.
that's kind of what I want to try to do, is kind of give people kind of a good model of how to do that, and then maybe exercises to go ahead and create that type of life for them. They have to have a target. In EOS, they have these 1 or 2 sheets that people have for businesses.
Uh-huh.
How do we do that for somebody's life? And if people took the time and a little bit of effort on this, I think they can have kind of a good little guide for themselves.
Absolutely. It's funny. We talk about, scheduling, and I think, okay, if you put things in a calendar and schedule it out, you feel better, you sleep better, whatnot. But a lot of that is, it's the demand stuff. Someone's demanding your time versus you leading with your time. And I think a lot of people, entrepreneurs or employees, who are told where to go, what to do, and when, either by their customers or their boss. And I think what you're trying to say here, friend, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you lead with your own intentions, then people can't distract you from your main mission there.
Yeah, correct. So, and I think I just kind of dawned on me, just you mean you talking here, it just kind of came to me. He said, "Well, Pat, why would people listen to you? Why, why, right?" And
Mm,
I think the thing that I was able to do with the multiple great clips, the multiple chiropractic offices, having, being married, having 4 kids, the Duck Donuts, is I think the word is being organized, at least in thought processes, right?
mm,
And being analytical. And I think by organizing these thought processes, I think I can help individuals kind of go and guide them in the right
mm,
direction. So I think that's the key is just trying to organizing these thoughts to get them in the right direction.
yeah.
And these stair steps can really assist people to at least have a good feel of they're being on the right
Right.
direction.
Right. I mean, there's thousands of books about finding your purpose, your passion, or even quoting things in your book, like Simon Sinek and whatnot, about starting with why. When people are starting to think about, okay, how can I get myself, intentionally in a direction? What are some of the reasons, or some of the better question? What are some of the canary in the coal mine moments, even in your life, or people you talk to, that says, "Whoa, I'm really out of alignment. I need to get aligned here." What should people be looking for to know that they're out of alignment?
There's a couple things. I think one is I think it's an internal feeling, and if you're having a tough time getting out of bed in the morning, and getting onto whatever your mission is, I think there's a period of time, and we all have bad days, Doug.
Yeah.
But if that's consistently going on, and
Hmm.
it's almost a physical feeling. I really believe
Huh.
in parts of my steps there. I mean, you got to be in alignment with your heart, your gut, your
Mhm.
conscience, your actions as far as how you're moving, your
Sure.
blood, sweat, and tears. I call it your soul. I think these are feelings. I think you'd have like, hey, something just isn't right here, and,
Hmm.
and I think people get stuck, whether they're stuck in relationships, they're stuck in the type of job they're doing. They're
Yeah.
just not feeling fully alive is the word. And I think a lot of that's going on right now. I just
Right.
finished John Gordon's book, the One Truth. It's kind of his new book that's out right now,
Huh.
and he talks about somebody calls them D's, that actually kind of get us off track. And one is called doubt, distortion, which is kind of distorting the truth,
Sure.
discouragement,
Mm.
and distraction. And distraction today with the social media. Social
Yeah.
media is great, but social media has some consequences in the fact that people are comparing themselves to all these things that they're seeing, and they're distracted, and they're like, "Man, my life's not like this person or that person." I think that just kind of generating this kind of these negative thoughts in their head, and,
Right.
and it just kind of almost fuels the fire if they're not feeling like they're on track.
It certainly does. So in your case, how did you obviously you discovered this you said you think about at an EOS meeting, which you're a member of. But when you talk to other people about this alignment, not your chiropractic, but in life, what are some of the you have a story of somebody you got back on track?
Yeah, sure. It's interestingly enough, I'm talking to somebody tonight at 9 p.m. on a Zoom call about it. I've had the opportunity, Doug, to speak or speak some of these concepts at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. I've
Nice.
actually spoken in the last 3 semesters at their
Hmm.
entrepreneur program, and I've been blessed to have that opportunity. And kind of a connection through my daughter who graduated from there, and
Yeah.
she minored in entrepreneurship. So, I've been able to kind of test drive a couple of these concepts.
Hmm.
I'm actually, in the process of trying to design a curriculum.
Right. Right.
Hopefully teaching it there, but maybe at other community colleges, or maybe even online, and just to kind of give people some systems to do this. So really, it's been kind of a little eye opening in the fact that people aren't used to writing their goals down. That's kind of the third thing. Let me delve in just briefly. It's basically 6 steps. It's
Mhm.
finding somebody's passion, then finding your mission, creating vision, taking action, charting progression, and then finally getting joy, what I call joyful jubilation. So it's
Right.
passion, mission, vision, action, progression, and jubilation. So is
Mhm.
is is the third tentacle. So it's passion, and there's some things we could talk about with that. Mission, which I think is the most important thing, but really vision. A lot of people don't write their goals down, Doug.
Yeah.
3% of people have been found to write their goals down, and they say 97% of people work for those 3%.
That's
So
right.
I
I
mean,
love that one.
it's that powerful of a thing. And I think one of the concepts in my exercises is just as simple as writing down your goals. People
Right.
people are never going to hit a target that they can't see.
Yeah.
And so it's just a fundamental thing. So it's a real simple thing, but
Yeah.
I've got a kind of a unique way to kind of set some goals, and so that's been real helpful just on that fundamental part.
Yeah. I've done it since right out of college when I took, read some Zig Ziglar books about goal setting and whatnot. And I started looking back at some of them. And sometimes I've achieved them, never achieved them at the time I thought I would, but I hit them eventually. Sometimes they change. So talk to us about when, because obviously there's different segments or seasons of your life. And as we get older, I think people get beat up more. They have more things go against them, and their goals tend to be chipped away a little bit. When you're young, I could take on the world. When I'm 50, oh, that didn't work. That didn't work. I better just settle. What do you do to help somebody out who's been beat up a little bit with their goals?
Yeah, great point. So part of this process is we talked about passion, mission, vision, action, progression, jubilation. On the bottom end is what I call foundation.
Ah,
That's kind of like 1A, so to speak, and that's kind of setting what your life where you're at this point. Okay, and I think you can do that. The first exercise we did at Chapel Hill is just trying to having people fill this out, is kind of where they are in that first, what I say, quarter of life, right when they're getting out of college and jumping in the real world. So I think kind of understanding kind of where you've been, so to speak, how you're born, who you're born with, what geographical area, what religion, lots of, as John Maxwell says, is when we're born, it's all chance.
yeah.
And as we get older, chance becomes this, but choice becomes like that.
Wow.
Like your first 25 years, man, on this planet, it's mostly chance, not choice. So I think understanding kind of where you are, and so I think you can even do that at age 30, age 40, age 50, kind of say, okay, here's what's happened to me. Here's kind of where I'm at, and I getting a good baseline. And I think by getting that, I think is important. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I think the other thing is on the other end of this passion, mission, vision, action, progression, jubilation is what I call recalibration. And what I mean by that at the end is in EOS, they force you to do a 2-day annual every year to go ahead and see where your business is. And they also want you to do quarterly kind of check-ins.
Yeah.
So I think doing an annual, Doug, every year to say, okay, has my passion shifted?
Yeah.
Do my core values, are they the same? Let me revisit my goals. Do I have any new goals? And I think by going over this exercise kind of on an annual basis, you're kind of recalibrating a little bit, because I mean, life does pivot. I read a book by Burnett and Evans called Designing Your Life. It's a class taught at Stanford. And it's a tremendous book. I give it to all college graduates that for as graduation present. Whether they read it or not, it's up to them.
Yeah.
But in that book, it talks about 44% of people will get a side career at some point. I mean, it happened to me, right? I never thought I'd be in the hair business.
Yeah.
But I got into chiropractic, and then I delved into the franchise world with Great Clips hair salons. But most people are going to find these types of these life pivots, and it just happens. And basically, I think by paying attention to the fundamentals, what I'm talking about, I think will help kind of guide people and say, okay, they need to self-examine, reset possibly, and then kind of shift a little bit and say, hey, am I having a tough time getting out of bed in the morning? Am I just feeling stuck? Is this the life that I really dreamt about? And I think then taking those directions, which comes into action and progression to reach that jubilation, that's kind of where the metal hits right there.
Yeah. Have you, what about you in your case? Do you have any low points in this journey where it was really hard to get out of bed or hard to reset?
100%. No doubt about it. I think that, just going and selling Great Clips this past year, I mean, I believe my passion was changing a little bit. I mean, I was finding some business problems in that realm that was difficult for me to fix. And I found myself in 14 years getting a little frustrated. And I think when that happens, I think, there was an opportunity for me to sell, and I said, I took it. Could I have made more money down the road staying in the business? Certainly I could have. But I just felt fundamentally, I think it was time to move on and go to something else. And so I think, in your gut, in your heart, I think things they just start talking to you a little bit. I think meditation's critical. I do a lot of meditation, and I've just felt called to do something else. And this is kind of an arena I'm going to go ahead and give it my best here. And if there's some people that like it, then awesome. If not, then it's something I feel called to do nonetheless.
Sure. I love it. And I love the chart you described by having lots of choices, or chance versus choice. I'm thinking about that a lot right now. Yeah. It's, we have a lot more choices as the world opens up to us. And I think maybe it's as important to say what you don't want to do as it is what you want to do. Like in your case, hey, it's time to, I enjoyed this, but it's time to let one thing go so I can focus over here. And
that's a great point. I've heard that from a buddy of mine who said sometimes you by taking enough jobs in your life, you find out what you don't want to do. That's a great point there, Doug.
That's right. And for entrepreneurs, we have, you've actually mastered your shiny object syndrome, but a lot of the ones I know have not. They fly around from idea to idea to idea, and they can never settle in and take one on. Is that an alignment, or is it just the way they're wired?
I think that gets into this progression piece in my stair-step approach. And I think with what I call action, I think the action is the most important thing, right? How many people do you know that said, man, I wish I could do this, or I really want to do this someday? And like, okay, when are you going to start? So really action has a couple different tentacles to it, and then progression. Okay. Right. So in EOS, to parallel this, they talk about what's called rocks, which are 90-day seasonal goals. Okay. So in our action piece is when are you going to start, right? You got to start. And then how do we chop those 1-year goals down to 90-day seasonal goals, right? And so let's go ahead and establish those. And then you got to find some accountability partners, right? Like you've been a kind of an accountability partner to me here a little bit, get this book done.
Yeah.
And we're gaining on it. And then the other thing is you have to find what I call your ships, SHIP. You got to find your mentorships, your associateships, your preceptorships. Right. Find those people that are willing to help. I mean, you're willing to help. I'm willing to help. I mean, you could find a lot of people want to give and really give their time and to help people. There's plenty of people that will help kind of what the younger version of themselves were. And I think that's I think that's an important thing is to find those people. And I think once you get to that part, Doug, then finding your progression, which I think are weekly kind of set goals. And there's some kind of, lead to lag indicators, right? Find out what your lead indicators and see if you're hitting those things. And I think those directional things. So finding the action with your mentors, the accountability partners, cutting your things into 90-day goals, and then finding, hey, am I making any progress week to week to week to week, or am I not? And then that'll just be kind of self-fulfilling there.
I love that. How do people get in touch with you?
I'm just old school right now. You can reach me at drpatmclaughlin@gmail.com, and I'll reach out to you. So basically, we're still kind of fundamentally putting some of these platforms together. But absolutely, don't hesitate to.
Dr. Dr. Right, not the full word.
That's right. drpatmclaughlin@gmail.com. Happy to help somebody.
drpatmclaughlin@gmail.com. It's also in the show notes here. You can click on that and email Pat. If you can't spell McLaughlin, you're just not qualified to work with him, as far as I'm concerned.
It's McLaughlin. So anyway, but it's pronounced McLaughlin.
It's around here. It's right down here showing. They can click on that and they can shoot you an email. And don't burn his time. Have a quick question. Get to it. He's a busy man, but he's willing to help. So I really appreciate that, Pat. That's wonderful. I appreciate that. Parting words of wisdom. If you could sum up an alignment parable or an alignment. Somebody would you say?
I'll leave it at this here. So we again, I'm regurgitating this: passion, mission, vision, action, progression, jubilation. And the second piece I think is the most important, Doug, and that is mission. And what mission means is core values. And if I could just end in a minute here on this,
sure.
Businesses have core values, right? Like Nike, just do it. Everybody can kind of regurgitate kind of certain businesses' core values, but as an individual, can you? And if you ask somebody on the street, hey, what are your core values? People will stumble through them. Everybody's got core values,
right?
But I think that the time has come for people to establish their own individual core values. Like I've got 7 real quick. It's go, go, grow, give, live, love, learn, and fun. Okay, go. I like to go for it in life.
Yeah.
Give. I like to give back, like I am right here. I like to grow. I like to live. I like to have fun.
Yeah.
I like to love, and I like to learn. These books behind me, I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. My point is when I have relationships, when I have business decisions I've got to make right now, when I have these things like, hey, do I want to spend 45 minutes with you today? I'm pouring life through what I call a colander of my core values. And if those things stick, those are the things that mean the most with me here. So what I call life alignment is things that are going with your passion, through your mission, through your vision, through your actions, through your progressions, through jubilations. And if everything's in alignment, things may, life is what it's all about. But the colander is a good tip. And I would say, okay, define your core values, which are mainly verbs, by the way, couple nouns.
Yeah.
Find your 3 to 10 core values. Ask those people around you, hey, does this sound like me?
Mm-hmm.
Wash them through maybe the good and the bad things in your past of your life and
Yeah.
say, hey, this makes sense. And then I would use those, write them down, know those. And then when you have, hey, do you want to spend a weekend with this couple? Well, do they mesh with your core values or not? Should you take this business project on, throw them into the calendar of your core values and see if that makes sense or not. And it's really helped me out in making some life decisions here recently that I've been kind of, hey, Pat, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Do you want to hang out with these people?
Mm-hmm.
I just pour it through my core values, and it's almost kind of makes those decisions for me.
Wow. It sort of goes back to one of your chapters about writing your own eulogy, right? You've got to, you're going to have one someday. You don't know when it is. So you might as well live every day in alignment with your values, right? That makes sense.
There's a last tip. And people laugh at me on this. There's a thing called Countdown app. It's an app called Countdown.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
And I read this somewhere. And first of all, the eulogy is Michael Haddock's book, and that's where he talks about that.
We give him credit once, then it's all yours. Okay.
That's right. But in the Countdown app, you put your 80th birthday down. It's an Oliver Burkeman's book called 4,000 Weeks, and basically what it says is we live. The 80-year-old would live approximately 4,000 weeks, and so you put your 80th birthday down there, and you can kind of look at that, and really, time is finite, and when you put that together with this, what I call this life alignment, I think it's all the more important that we're only here for a little bit. You better make sure you have this one life. Better make sure it's in alignment.
That's right. I love it. Pat, thank you so much. Words of wisdom. Check it out. Dr. Pat McLaughlin, drpatmclaughlin@gmail.com. Give him a shout, get some advice, and get your life in alignment. Pat, thanks so much for being on the show today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Doug.
And that wraps up another Off Your Brand hour, or 20 minutes, whatever it was. Wonderful time. You're going to want to take notes. If you didn't take notes, you can click below and get those notes there for yourself, and contact Pat. He's a wise man. Have a good one. Thanks so much for joining us.